Captain Elias Harper stood on the observation deck of the starship Vanguard, staring at the swirling purple gas clouds of the distant Varelian system. His hands clenched the railing instinctively, not from fear but from anticipation. This was no ordinary mission. For the first time in human history, a human soldier had been assigned to serve alongside the elite forces of the Varelian Empire, a civilization known across the galaxy for its ruthless strength and cunning. Elias had trained all his life for moments like this. Growing up on Earth, he had learned to rely on his wits, his instincts, and his unyielding determination. Technology could be copied. Physical strength could be matched. But creativity? Resourcefulness? That was something only humans seemed to possess naturally. And now, he would prove it among beings who had never truly faced a human warrior before. As the Vanguard approached the Varelian capital, the massive spires of crystal and metal rose against the stars, glowing faintly in the gaslit atmosphere. The alien soldiers aboard the ship eyed him with suspicion. Their eyes were wide, elongated, and shimmering with colors humans could not name. Their armor was sleek and designed for intimidation, with shifting patterns that made them appear larger and more fearsome than they really were. Elias felt their stares but did not flinch. He had anticipated this. In a room full of predators, humans had survived for millennia by being unpredictable. He simply had to remain calm and observe. "Captain Harper," said Lieutenant Varel, a tall, blue-skinned Varelian with segmented limbs and glowing markings across his face. "You understand the protocol. The tournament begins in 3 cycles. Only the strongest may advance. And strength here is everything." Elias nodded. "I understand," he said calmly, his voice firm despite the tension in the room. "But strength alone doesn't win wars, Lieutenant." Varel tilted his head, clearly unamused. "You are human. We shall see." The tournament was held in a vast arena, carved into the mountains of the capital world. Thousands of spectators, both human diplomats and alien citizens, crowded the stands. At the center was a battlefield. Jagged rocks, shifting energy fields, and traps designed to test combat skill and intelligence alike. Elias stepped onto the arena floor. The aliens around him towered over him, each one exuding confidence and power. But he didn't feel small. He felt alive. The first match was against a pair of Varelian soldiers known for their brute strength. They charged in perfect synchronization, expecting to overpower him instantly. Elias ducked, rolled, and used their own momentum against them. He triggered a nearby trap, sending both aliens tumbling into a pit. The crowd gasped. Princess Lyria watched from her high throne. She was breathtaking even by alien standards, tall and regal, with luminous violet skin and hair that shimmered like starlight. Her eyes narrowed as she observed the human. There was something about the way he moved, the way he thought. Unlike the aliens who relied on raw strength, he used his mind. He adapted. He predicted. He won without unnecessary violence. The next rounds were harder. Aliens with speed, alien technology-enhanced strength, and deadly agility faced him. Elias was scratched, bruised, and pushed to the edge of exhaustion. Yet every time he found a clever solution, a misstep here, a trap there. Each victory earned the astonished murmurs of the crowd. Humans had always been underestimated. Now he was proving that their cunning could rival even the mightiest Varelians. By the third match, the arena was abuzz. "The human," shouted some of the alien spectators. "He cannot be stopped." Others were furious. "This is impossible. He is only human." Elias noticed the princess leaning forward slightly. She didn't clap, didn't cheer, but her gaze remained fixed on him. She saw something beyond the fights. She saw resilience, courage, and a spark of humanity that no alien had truly recognized before. During a short break between rounds, Lieutenant Varel approached him. "Human," he said, trying to hide both respect and annoyance. "How do you do it? You face creatures 10 times your size and survive. You outthink them. He paused. "It is unnatural." Elias smiled slightly. "It's not unnatural. Humans have survived the impossible for centuries. You might call it luck. But it's really observation, strategy, and a willingness to take risks others won't." Varel shook his head. "Your kind. We will see how far you go." The final match of the day approached. Elias faced 3 of the Empire's elite soldiers at once. The crowd was silent. This was a test no human had ever attempted, and most aliens doubted he could survive. Elias studied the battlefield carefully. The terrain had shifting energy panels, a few hovering platforms, and several traps. He didn't just charge in. Instead, he moved methodically, luring one soldier onto a platform that lifted him into the air, avoiding the other's attacks. He used the environment to separate his enemies, turning their coordination against them. One by one they fell, trapped, disarmed, or outmaneuvered. The arena erupted. The alien audience was stunned into silence, then awe. A human had defeated the Empire's finest in a display of intelligence and bravery. Princess Lyria stood, her posture commanding attention. Her voice echoed across the arena. "I have seen many warriors," she said, her tone proud and unwavering, "but never one like this human." Her eyes fixed on Elias. "I appoint that young human soldier as mine." The words shocked everyone. Whispers spread like wildfire. Aliens who had doubted him now stared in disbelief. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Assigning a human in such a manner was unprecedented. Elias froze for a moment, unsure if he had heard correctly. Then slowly he bowed his head in respect. I'm honored, Your Highness," he said, choosing his words carefully. The princess smiled faintly, a rare expression on her usually stern face. "You have shown courage, honor, and intelligence beyond your species. These qualities cannot be taught, they must be earned, and you have earned them." The arena cleared as the ceremony ended, but the whispers lingered. Humans were now no longer a curiosity or a minor species in the eyes of the Varelian Empire. They were capable, adaptable, and potentially revolutionary. That night, as Elias sat in a guest chamber within the palace, he reflected on the day. He had survived fights, outsmarted superior opponents, and earned the respect of the alien princess. Yet he also knew that this was only the beginning. Being appointed as the princess's human representative carried weight. There would be challenges, intrigues, and dangers ahead, both from within the Empire and from beyond. Elias Harper smiled faintly. He was ready. Humanity had sent him here to prove that even the smallest, most underestimated species could rise to greatness, and now the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Outside his window, the stars stretched endlessly across the violet sky. A new chapter had begun. Not just for Elias, but for all of humanity. The morning sun of the Varelian capital cast long, shimmering streaks across the palace halls. Captain Elias Harper walked alongside Princess Lyria, who moved with the effortless grace of someone born to command. Despite her elegance, there was a sharpness in her eyes, an intelligence that Elias had learned to respect deeply. "Tomorrow," Lyria said softly, "the council will present their challenges. They do not welcome change easily, human. They see your victories as luck, and many will try to prove otherwise." Elias nodded. He had anticipated this. He knew that gaining the Empire's respect would require more than fighting skills. It would require diplomacy, strategy, and patience. "Then I will meet their tests with what humans always have," he said. "Logic, courage, and a little unpredictability." The first challenge was announced at a grand council gathering. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the enormous hall. Their gazes swept over Elias, curious, wary, and for some openly hostile. A holographic display floated above the council table, showing 3 trials designed to test intelligence, courage, and moral judgment. The first trial was a maze of traps, filled with shifting walls, energy barriers, and sentient security drones programmed to eliminate intruders. It was not enough to be strong. Participants would have to think ahead, anticipate dangers, and act quickly. As Elias entered the maze, the others, largely Varelians, charged ahead, confident in their superior physicality. Many were stopped immediately by traps, while a few were caught by the drones. Elias moved differently. He paused, observing patterns in the drone's movements and the energy field's rhythms. He placed small objects to distract the sentries, jumped across shifting platforms only when he was certain of safety, and found paths that others overlooked. By the time he reached the end of the maze, only one other participant remained. Frustrated and exhausted, the council murmured. Humans had never before completed the maze with such efficiency. Even the princess seemed impressed, though she did not smile outright. The second trial was more complex. A negotiation with rogue factions of aliens who had been causing instability in nearby systems. Participants were given limited information and asked to secure a truce without bloodshed. Many aliens relied on intimidation and brute force, threatening the rogues with overwhelming power. The rogues responded with hostility, predicting the predictable tactics of the Empire's soldiers. Elias, however, approached differently. He listened. He asked questions. He learned about the rogue faction's true grievances. Using empathy and logic, he proposed a compromise that appealed to both sides' interests. The rogue leader, initially hostile, agreed. The council gasped. Humans, it seemed, could not only fight but also reason in ways the Empire had never anticipated. Princess Lyria's eyes softened. Elias was demonstrating a rare combination of courage, intelligence, and moral strength. The final trial was the most difficult, a simulated battle against overwhelming odds. Participants were placed in a holographic battlefield representing a real-world scenario, a planetary invasion by hostile forces. Success depended on strategy, leadership, and the ability to inspire allies. Most Varelian soldiers focused on maximizing their own personal power, rushing into attacks without coordinating with their teams. The simulation quickly turned against them. Elias, however, studied the map carefully. He organized his squad, assigned roles based on each soldier's strength, and used the environment to their advantage. He led small squads to create diversions, cut off enemy reinforcements, and draw attention away from vulnerable allies. Using clever tactics, he turned the simulated battle from an overwhelming disaster into a decisive victory. The council could hardly believe it. A human had succeeded where the Empire's elite had failed repeatedly. After the trials, the council convened privately. Opinions were divided. Some saw Elias as a prodigy, an asset to the Empire. Others feared him, a human who might disrupt centuries of tradition. Princess Lyria spoke on his behalf, her voice commanding and unwavering. "This human," she said, "has proven that courage and intelligence are not bound by species. He has earned his place not just beside me, but among the finest of our empire. We cannot ignore what he represents." The council reluctantly agreed, though some members made thinly veiled threats of further tests. Elias understood. Acceptance among the Varelian elite would not come easily, and he would need to remain vigilant. The following days brought more challenges, though they were subtler. Political intrigue, tests of loyalty, and minor skirmishes tested Elias in ways different from the arena. He navigated them all, earning the respect of some, the envy of others, and the wary admiration of many. During a quiet moment in the palace gardens, Princess Lyria approached him. "You are remarkable, Elias, not just because of your victories, but because of your integrity. You act without arrogance, without cruelty. That is rare here." Elias smiled faintly. "I learned that back on Earth. Strength without purpose, without morality. It's meaningless. Survival alone is not enough. Humanity survives because we adapt, think, and care. We find ways to endure and improve." Lyria studied him thoughtfully. "You may teach us more than you realize. Perhaps humanity's place in this galaxy is not just to serve or survive, but to inspire." A warning alarm sounded suddenly. The palace shook. Security alerts flashed across holographic screens. A rogue faction had launched a surprise assault on the capital. This was not a simulation. This was real. Elias sprang into action. He quickly assessed the situation, identifying weak points in the palace defenses and predicting enemy movements. He coordinated with Varelian soldiers, human allies, and even palace staff to create strategic choke points and traps. As enemy ships and ground forces advanced, Elias moved among them like a shadow, giving clear, concise orders. His strategies minimized casualties and slowed the invasion long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The attackers were eventually forced to retreat, suffering heavy losses. The council convened once again, this time not to debate, but to honor Elias. The alien leaders who had doubted him were now forced to acknowledge his brilliance. Whispers ran through the chambers. Humans were clever, resilient, and far more capable than anyone had imagined. Princess Lyria approached him privately afterward. "You have done what no human or alien has done before. Saved the capital through intellect, courage, and leadership. You are no longer just a soldier. You are a symbol." Elias felt the weight of her words. He was not only representing himself, but all of humanity. "I will not fail," he said solemnly. "For you, for the Empire." "For Earth," she nodded. "Good, because the trials are far from over. The galaxy is watching, Elias, and your actions will echo beyond this empire." That night, as Elias stood on the balcony overlooking the Varelian city, he reflected on everything he had faced. Every challenge had tested him in ways no training could fully prepare for. Every victory had proven that humans, though small and underestimated, possessed a unique spark, an intelligence and morality that could change the course of civilizations. The stars stretched endlessly before him. Somewhere out there, beyond the Empire and the rogue factions, were other worlds, other challenges, and other opportunities. Humanity was no longer a backwater species in the eyes of the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. The halls of the Varelian palace were quieter than usual. The echoes of the recent battle still lingered in the stone-like walls, a reminder of how close the Empire had come to disaster. Captain Elias Harper walked beside Princess Lyria, the human soldier now recognized as a hero not just for survival, but for strategy, leadership, and courage that surpassed all expectations. "Tomorrow," Lyria said, her voice steady yet tinged with anticipation, "you will stand before the Council. They will formally discuss your place in our empire. I hope you are ready for what comes next." Elias straightened his shoulders. He had faced simulations, rogue factions, and trials designed to break both mind and body. "I am ready," he said. "No matter what they throw at me, I will act with honor. That is all a human can offer, and it has served me well so far." The next day, the council convened in the Great Hall, a cavernous chamber filled with representatives from every corner of the Empire. Alien delegates of every shape and hue filled the seats. Energy projections swirled above, highlighting the achievements of past heroes and the glory of the Empire. At the center stood Elias, alone among the towering alien council members. "Captain Harper," began High Chancellor Vaylor, his voice smooth but heavy with skepticism, "your victories in the arena and on the battlefield have been remarkable. Yet many here question the wisdom of placing a human, an outsider, a species untested in our traditions, so close to the princess. Speak, if you will. Why should humanity have a place among our greatest?" Elias looked at the council and then at Lyria. He felt the weight of both their expectations. He could speak of tactics, strategy, or victories, but the council needed to understand something deeper. "Because humans survive when all odds are against them," he said clearly. "We are small, fragile compared to many species in this galaxy, yet we endure. Not because of brute force, but because of creativity, courage, and morality. Every choice we make is tempered by thought and responsibility. Today I have shown that these qualities matter as much as strength. I have led with honor, with intelligence, and with loyalty, not just to the Empire, but to those I fight alongside. Humanity's place in your world is not as conquerors, but as partners. We are capable of greatness, and we are ready to prove it." A hush fell over the hall. Even some of the skeptics leaned forward, listening. For the first time, the council considered a truth they had long ignored. Humans, though underestimated, possessed qualities that even the greatest Varelians sometimes lacked. Lyria rose from her seat. Her regal presence silenced even the whispers of the chamber. "The human before you," she said, her voice ringing through the hall, "is no ordinary soldier. He has shown courage that rivals the bravest among us, intelligence that surpasses many of our scholars, and honor that defines true leadership. For these reasons," she paused, letting the weight of her words settle, "I appoint Captain Elias Harper as mine." The words reverberated through the hall. Gasps erupted. Some council members stiffened. Others whispered urgently to one another. No human or even alien outsider had ever been granted such recognition. It was unprecedented. Elias froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. Then with steady composure, he bowed deeply. "I am honored, Your Highness," he said. "I will not fail you, nor the Empire, nor humanity." A few council members rose in protest, their voices sharp. "This is absurd," one cried. "A human has no place beside a princess. We cannot allow this." Lyria turned toward them, her eyes blazing with authority. "You will respect this decision. Captain Harper has earned it not through ceremony, tradition, or title, but through action, courage, and wisdom. If you cannot recognize merit when it stands before you, then perhaps it is you who fail the Empire, not him." The room fell silent again. Even the most stubborn members of the council recognized her authority, and the truth in her words. Elias, though human, had proven himself beyond doubt. After the formal declaration, Lyria and Elias walked through the palace gardens. The alien flora glowed softly under the twin moons, and the air was scented with a mixture of strange, sweet aromas. It was quiet, a rare moment away from political debates and military drills. "You handled yourself well," Lyria said. "The council is still uneasy, but they respect courage and competence even if they dislike change." Elias shook his head slightly. "I didn't just act for myself. I acted for humanity. Every step I take here represents everyone back on Earth. If I fail, it's not just me, it's my species." Lyria studied him closely. "Then you understand why this is not just a title. Being mine is not about possession, Elias. It is a symbol. A symbol that humanity has the potential to rise above expectations. You represent what we often forget, that intelligence, courage, and honor are universal qualities." Elias nodded. "I understand, and I will live up to it." In the following days, the Empire slowly adjusted to the unprecedented announcement. Aliens who had doubted him began to observe him closely, some with suspicion, some with grudging admiration. Elias navigated the delicate balance between asserting his own integrity and respecting the traditions of the Varelian court. One afternoon, a challenge arrived in the form of an alien diplomat, a delegation from a neighboring system demanding concessions from the Empire. They underestimated Elias, assuming a human would be inexperienced and easily intimidated. Instead, Elias met them with calm reasoning. He listened carefully to their grievances, analyzed their strategy, and then proposed a compromise that preserved the Empire's authority while respecting the neighbors' interests. The diplomats were impressed, leaving with newfound respect for both Elias and the Varelian leadership. "See what I mean?" Lyria said, observing from the council chambers. "Your approach is unlike anything they have faced. You force them to think differently." Elias smiled faintly. "Humans have survived by thinking differently for centuries. It is how we endure, how we win, and how we grow stronger." However, not all reactions were positive. Some factions within the Empire grew restless. They feared that a human too close to power could disrupt centuries of hierarchy. They began plotting subtle ways to test Elias further, sending him on dangerous missions and attempting to undermine his credibility with carefully placed rumors. Elias soon realized that victory in battle and skill and strategy were only part of his challenge. Now he had to navigate court politics, intrigue, and the delicate web of alien expectations. Every choice mattered, and one misstep could have consequences not only for him, but for humanity's standing in the galaxy. Yet through it all, Elias remained steadfast. His humanity, his courage, creativity, and moral clarity became his greatest strength. While others relied on fear, intimidation, or tradition, he relied on what humans had always relied on: observation, reasoning, and the belief that honor mattered above all else. One evening, Lyria joined him on the palace balcony, overlooking the glowing city below. "Do you realize," she said softly, "that what you have done here is historic? Not just for humanity, but for this empire?" Elias looked at her. "I know, and I also know that this is only the beginning. There will be more trials, more challenges, and more obstacles, but I will face them. Humanity will face them." She nodded, a small smile breaking her usually calm composure. "Good, because the galaxy is watching. They will test us, doubt us, and perhaps even try to destroy what we are building. But together, we can prove that courage, intelligence, and honor are not bound by species. They are universal." Elias felt a surge of determination. He had already faced impossible odds, yet each trial only strengthened his resolve. If humans could survive on Earth against countless disasters, wars, and challenges, then surely they could rise in a galaxy dominated by aliens. The stars above shimmered, reflecting in his eyes. He understood now that his role was far greater than any single battle or council decision. He was a symbol, a living testament to what humanity could achieve. The corridors of the Varelian palace buzzed with tension. Captain Elias Harper had become a symbol of human ingenuity, of courage, and of the unprecedented alliance between Earth and the Varelian Empire. Yet not everyone welcomed his rise. Some council members whispered behind closed doors, plotting ways to undermine him, while rival factions across the Empire tested the boundaries of their power. Elias understood the danger. He had survived arenas, mazes, simulations, and battles, but political intrigue was an entirely different challenge. The cunning of the Varelian elite could be just as lethal as any weapon. One mistake, one misstep, and not only his reputation but humanity's standing in the galaxy could be destroyed. Princess Lyria approached him in the strategy room, a holographic map of the Empire glowing between them. "We have received word," she said, her voice calm but urgent, "that a coalition of dissenting factions is planning an insurrection. They are unlikely to strike openly. They will test your alliances, your strategy, and your ability to unite this empire." Elias studied the map. Several key planets and supply lines were marked with potential vulnerabilities. "Then we must act first," he said. "Predict their moves, cut off their resources, and make sure they realize that any rebellion will fail before it even begins." Over the next several cycles, Elias worked tirelessly. He met with governors, military leaders, and influential figures across the empire, both alien and human, earning their trust and respect. He used his understanding of human psychology and leadership to motivate, inspire, and even challenge them in ways they had not experienced before. One evening, a young Varelian commander approached him. "Human, you lead with principles, not fear. It is strange," she said, her segmented limbs shifting nervously. "Yet I see that even those who doubt you follow your lead. How do you do it?" Elias smiled faintly. "I don't rely on fear. I rely on reason, respect, and fairness. People are more willing to follow when they trust that their leader cares not just for power, but for them. Humans have learned this through centuries of survival." The commander nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we could learn from your kind." Meanwhile, whispers of dissent grew louder in the outer systems. A coalition of rebel factions began mobilizing, attempting to test the Empire's defenses. They were armed with advanced weaponry, using speed and numbers to their advantage. Yet Elias anticipated their moves. Using a combination of intelligence gathering, predictive analysis, and clever misdirection, he set traps along the likely paths of attack. He deployed decoy fleets to confuse the enemy, and created alliances with previously neutral systems by offering fair trade agreements and mutual protection. Every move was calculated, yet flexible enough to adapt to surprises. When the rebels launched their first attack, they were met with overwhelming coordination. Forces they expected to be scattered were concentrated at the right time, cutting off reinforcements and neutralizing threats before they could escalate. Elias led key squads into battle personally, using tactics that leveraged human unpredictability, luring enemies into traps, exploiting weaknesses in their formations, and outthinking them at every turn. The battle raged across orbital stations and planetary surfaces. The rebels were strong and numerous, but they were outmaneuvered at every stage. Their leaders soon realized that they were facing not just a military genius, but an entirely new approach to warfare. One that valued strategy, human intuition, and the clever use of environment over sheer force. By the time the conflict ended, the rebels had suffered heavy losses and were forced to retreat. The Empire's stability was secured, and Elias emerged as a hero once more. Yet the political implications were deeper than the battlefield. Every victory strengthened the trust between humans and the Varelians, proving that cooperation between species could create power greater than any one civilization alone. Back in the palace, Lyria greeted him in the strategy room. "You've done more than win battles," she said. "You've reshaped the Empire's view of humanity. Those who doubted you now see that we are capable allies, partners in leadership." Elias shook his head. "This was not just about humans. It was about fairness, logic, and strategy. Any species could have achieved this with the right approach. But humans, we have learned to endure, to adapt, and to unite when survival depends on it." Despite the victories, Elias knew the danger was far from over. Some factions still whispered and schemed. Unwilling to accept the shift in power, they would attempt subtler methods next: sabotage, espionage, and political manipulation. Elias had to remain vigilant. One day, a mysterious message arrived warning of a hidden attack on one of the Empire's key supply planets. The source was anonymous, but the intelligence seemed credible. Elias immediately convened a council of trusted leaders and devised a plan. He split forces to protect the planet while deploying decoys to lure the attackers into a trap. When the enemy arrived, they found the planet heavily defended, yet no overwhelming force was visible. Elias had anticipated their strategy perfectly. The enemy fleet fell into his trap, becoming vulnerable to precise strikes that disabled their ships and cut off escape routes. The victory was clean, efficient, and decisive. As the dust settled, Lyria joined Elias on the observation deck of the palace tower. "You've done what no one thought possible," she said softly. "You have not only defended our empire, but you've shown that humans can be trusted, respected, and valued allies." Elias gazed at the stars beyond the city. "It is only the beginning," he said. "The galaxy is vast. There are more challenges, more species, more conflicts. But if humans can survive and adapt here, in an empire that once saw us as weak and insignificant, then we can face anything." Lyria smiled faintly. "And you will not face it alone. Together we can guide the empire and humanity toward a future where courage, intelligence, and honor are recognized, not just by humans, but by the galaxy itself." Elias nodded. "Then let us prepare. There will be tests beyond battles, beyond politics, and we must be ready for every one of them." As they stood side by side, the glow of the twin moons reflected on the palace spires. The city below was alive with activity, a symbol of both the Empire's resilience and the fragile new alliance they were forging. Humanity had survived the trials so far, and with every success, their place in the galaxy grew stronger. The twin suns of the Varelian capital rose slowly over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the city's spires. Captain Elias Harper stood beside Princess Lyria on the balcony of the royal palace, surveying the vast expanse of the Empire below. Their combined forces had not only defeated rogue factions and rebellious coalitions, but they had also begun to change the hearts and minds of countless alien citizens. Humanity was no longer merely an observer in the galaxy. It had become a force to be reckoned with. "Elias," Lyria said softly, her violet eyes reflecting the dawn light. "You've done what I thought impossible. The Empire respects you, even fears you in ways that are respectful. And yet the galaxy is vast. There are still worlds that doubt humanity's strength." Elias nodded, adjusting the strap of his uniform. "I know, but fear and respect can grow into understanding. All we need is a chance to show them that humans are not just survivors. We are thinkers, leaders, and fighters with honor." A communicator beeped sharply. A holographic projection flickered to life, showing the leaders of an interstellar coalition of neutral species. Their representatives, elegant and imposing, looked at Elias with curiosity and caution. "We have observed your victories, human," one of them said, her voice melodic but firm. "Your actions have affected the balance of power in the Varelian Empire. We wish to discuss your intentions. Are humans to be allies or threats?" Elias straightened. This was the moment to prove humanity's place beyond a single empire. "Humans seek not domination but cooperation. We value intelligence, courage, and honor above conquest. The galaxy thrives when we work together, not when we destroy one another." The council members exchanged glances. Elias could see doubt still lingering, but also curiosity. His words were clear, logical, and persuasive. Human qualities that even advanced species could respect when combined with courage and results. "Very well," another representative said cautiously. "We will observe, but your actions will determine our trust." Elias ended the transmission and turned to Lyria. "They will judge us by deeds, not words. That is how humans operate. We prove ourselves by action." Lyria smiled faintly. "Then let us continue to act." The next weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Elias and Lyria traveled across the Empire, inspecting planets, reinforcing defenses, and establishing fair trade and military alliances. Everywhere they went, humans were met with skepticism at first. But with each demonstration of tactical brilliance, fairness in negotiation, and acts of courage, that skepticism transformed into respect. On one planet, Elias reorganized a failing defense system that the Varelians had long considered impregnable. He noticed that the enemy would exploit the same predictable tactics they had relied on for decades. Using his human ingenuity, he redesigned the strategy with minimal resources, turning what seemed like a weak defense into an unbreakable fortress. When the Varelian commanders witnessed the transformation, they were astounded. "This human," one whispered, "thinks differently than any of us." Elias overheard but said nothing. He had learned long ago that action spoke louder than words. During another mission, a group of pirates attempted to ambush a supply convoy. Elias, anticipating the attack, set a series of clever traps along the pirates' route. When the pirates moved to strike, they found themselves ensnared and outmaneuvered. Not a single convoy ship was lost, and the pirates were captured efficiently. "Impressive," Lyria said as they surveyed the captured fleet. You've turned an ambush into a victory without unnecessary bloodshed. Elias nodded.
That is how humans operate.
We value life when possible, but we act decisively when action is needed. The Empire's citizens began to whisper tales of the human captain, who could outthink entire fleets, negotiate peace where others fought war, and lead with honor and integrity. Children told stories of him in the schools. Young soldiers studied his strategies. Humans, once thought fragile and insignificant, were becoming a symbol of resilience and ingenuity across multiple star systems. Yet Elias never became arrogant. He remembered the lessons of Earth. Survival meant humility, adaptability, and constant learning. He treated allies with respect, enemies with fairness, and always led by example. One evening, back in the Varelian capital, Lyria and Elias attended a Grand Council meeting. Representatives from across the galaxy were present, including humans, Varelians, and species from neighboring systems. They discussed new trade agreements, joint defense plans, and cultural exchanges, a first step toward true interstellar cooperation. When it came time for Elias to speak, all eyes turned to the human captain. Today, he began, his voice calm but strong, we stand not just as representatives of our species, but as partners in a galaxy that is larger than any one civilization. Humanity has learned to survive by thinking, by caring, and by acting with courage. We do not seek to conquer, only to cooperate, to build, and to protect. And we are ready to face every challenge alongside you. The hall erupted in applause and murmurs of approval. Aliens who had once doubted humans now nodded with respect. Some even cheered. Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not for personal glory, but for what humanity had achieved. After the meeting, Lyria turned to him. You have done more than I ever imagined. Not only have you proven yourself, but you have inspired hope and respect across the galaxy. This is your legacy, Elias. Elias looked at the stars beyond the windows. He thought of Earth, of the people who had trained, worked, and dreamed alongside him, who had believed in humanity's potential even when others had not. This is only the beginning, he said. Our species has the potential to grow, to learn, and to contribute. The galaxy is vast, but humans can rise to every challenge. Lyria placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we will rise together. Your courage, intelligence, and honor will guide not only humans, but the entire Empire. The galaxy will remember this era, not for the strength of weapons alone, but for the strength of spirit and wisdom. Weeks turned into cycles, and the impact of Elias's actions became permanent. Trade flourished between human and alien systems. Alliances strengthened and rebellions became rare. The Varelian Empire evolved from a rigid, tradition-bound society into one that recognized merit, creativity, and courage. Regardless of species, children learned stories of humans not as weak outsiders, but as clever, courageous, and honorable beings. Tales of Captain Elias Harper inspired a generation, not just on Earth but across many worlds. One night, as Elias and Lyria stood together on the palace balcony, the city below quiet in the soft glow of its twin moons, he finally allowed himself a moment of reflection. We have accomplished much, he said softly, but the galaxy is still full of unknowns. There will always be challenges, conflicts, and new discoveries. Humanity must continue to prove itself. Lyria smiled, placing a hand over his. And we will. Together we will face whatever comes. Your story is only the beginning of a legacy that will last for centuries. A legacy of courage, intelligence, and honor. A legacy of humanity. Elias Harper looked at the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. Humans once underestimated now stood as equals among the stars. Their ingenuity, morality, and courage had been recognized. And as he gazed at the glowing expanse of the galaxy, he knew that humanity's story was far from over. This was more than a victory for a single human soldier. It was a triumph for his species, a testament to the human spirit, a proof that even in a galaxy dominated by alien empires, humanity could rise, adapt, and inspire. The twin moons reflected on the palace spires, casting light over a city that had learned to respect the courage of a single human. But it was more than respect, it was admiration, and it would echo for generations. Humanity's legacy had begun,